I adjusted the aperture on my Nikon, pretending to focus on the glittering champagne fountain while my lens was actually pointed at my husband. Through the viewfinder, I watched Marcus laugh at something the woman beside him said. Her hand rested on his forearm a little too long. Her smile was a little too familiar. This wasn't paranoia. I'd hired myself as the event photographer for the Children's Hospital Foundation gala specifically to find out the truth. My name is Maya Rodriguez, and 3 weeks ago, I was a 4-year-old woman who thought she had it all figured out. My husband and I ran Rodriguez Medical Supply together, the company my late father had built from nothing. Marcus handled finances and operations. I managed client relations and expansion. We were partners in every sense of the word, or so I thought. The lens captured Marcus leaning in to whisper something to the woman in the emerald dress. She threw her head back, laughing, her diamond earrings catching the light. I snapped the shot. Click. Evidence. Nobody at this gala knew who I was. I'd worn my hair completely different, pulled back in a severe bun with dark-rimmed glasses I didn't need. The catering company owner was my college roommate's sister. One phone call, one favor, and I had official photographer credentials for the biggest charity event of the season. Marcus thought I was in San Francisco at a medical supply conference. I'd even sent him photos from the airport lounge, carefully time-stamped. What he didn't know was that I'd never boarded that plane. Let me back up. It started 4 months ago with the small things. Marcus staying late at the office more often. His phone perpetually face down on surfaces. A new cologne I'd never seen him wear. When I asked about his day, his answers became vague, rehearsed. The man who used to tell me everything suddenly had nothing to say. Then came the credit card statement I accidentally opened. 2 charges at Bella Notte, the most expensive Italian restaurant in Chicago, both on nights when Marcus said he was working late on inventory reports. When I asked him about it, he barely blinked. Client dinners, he'd said. Thompson Medical was considering a major contract. I had to wine and dine them. I'd called Thompson Medical the next day. They'd never heard of any dinner meetings. That's when I hired a private investigator. For 2 weeks, nothing concrete emerged. Marcus was careful. But then came the photographs. Marcus entering a luxury apartment building in River North. The same building, 3 times that week. Each time around 9 p.m., each time staying exactly 2 hours. The PI couldn't get inside to see who lived there, but he did find something else. Marcus had opened a separate business account 3 months ago. One I knew nothing about. An account that had received wire transfers totaling $280,000 from Rodriguez Medical Supply. My father's company. The company he'd bled and sweated to build. The company he'd left to me in his will with one condition: that I maintain majority ownership and never let it fall into the wrong hands. Marcus was my husband, my partner. But according to our prenup and business agreement, he only owned 25% of the company. I owned 65%. The remaining 10% was held in trust for any future children we might have. Children we'd been trying for. Children that hadn't come, despite 2 years of trying, despite the fertility treatments, despite everything. So yes, I had plenty of reasons to be standing at this gala with a camera around my neck and rage in my heart. "Excuse me, could you get a shot of our table?" I turned to find an older woman in a stunning purple gown, gesturing to a group of laughing guests. I smiled professionally and obliged, all while keeping Marcus in my peripheral vision. He and the emerald dress woman were moving toward the terrace. I followed. The November air hit me as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. Through the glass doors I could see them clearly now. They stood by the railing overlooking the Chicago River, the city lights glittering behind them. Marcus's hand was on her lower back, intimate, possessive, the way he used to touch me. I raised my camera and fired off a series of shots. The way they looked at each other, the way she leaned into him, the way his thumb traced circles on her spine. Then he kissed her. Not a peck, not a friendly kiss, a deep, passionate kiss that made my stomach turn. I kept shooting. Click, click, click. The camera became my shield, the only thing between me and the complete breakdown threatening to surface. They pulled apart, and Marcus said something that made her laugh again. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath stopped. He opened it. Even from this distance, I could see the sparkle of diamonds. The woman's hands flew to her mouth. She nodded frantically. He slipped the ring onto her finger. I captured it all. My husband had just proposed to another woman while still married to me. I lowered the camera slowly, my hands surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Through the glass doors, I watched them embrace, watched her show off the ring, watched my entire marriage reveal itself as the lie it had been. That's when I saw it. The woman's purse had fallen open, and a name badge on a lanyard had tumbled out. Even from here I could read it. Jennifer Lawson, CFO, Thompson Medical Corporation. Thompson Medical. The client dinner that supposedly never happened. Except it had happened. It just wasn't about business. My mind raced. Marcus had stolen $280,000 from our company. He was having an affair with Thompson Medical's CFO. He'd just proposed to her. And tomorrow, I was supposed to sign documents transferring operational control of Rodriguez Medical Supply to him for efficiency purposes. I'd been so stupid. The papers were already drawn up, sitting in my home office, waiting for my signature. Marcus had convinced me it made sense. You focus on growth. I'll handle the day-to-day, he'd said. It'll free you up to do what you do best. What it would actually do is give him legal control. He could drain the company, sell it off piece by piece, and by the time I realized what was happening, it would be too late. I pulled out my phone and texted my father's old lawyer, Richard Chen. Despite it being 10 p.m. on a Friday, I knew he'd respond. He always did. Richard, I need you. Emergency. How fast can you file an injunction to freeze company accounts? His response came within seconds. 20 minutes if you can get me probable cause. What's going on? Embezzlement. Fraud. I'll send proof. I pulled up the PI's reports on my phone, along with the photos I'd taken tonight, and sent them all to Richard. Then I did something else. I forwarded everything to my personal cloud storage, my backup email, and printed copies to 3 different secure locations through a remote printing app. Marcus had taught me to always have redundancies in business. I was about to use his own lesson to destroy him. My phone buzzed. Richard, Jesus Christ, Maya. I'm filing tonight. Don't go home. Don't sign anything. Don't let him know you know. But I couldn't just leave. Not yet. Because I'd noticed something else. Through the terrace door, I could see Marcus and Jennifer returning to the ballroom. They were heading toward a group of men in expensive suits. Men I recognized. The hospital board. The very people who approved which medical suppliers the hospital system used. Rodriguez Medical Supply had been the primary vendor for Chicago Metro hospitals for 15 years. My father had built that relationship through quality, integrity, and fair pricing. I watched as Marcus shook hands with Dr. Harrison, the board chairman. Watched as Jennifer stood beside him like they were already married. Watched as Dr. Harrison clapped Marcus on the shoulder like they were old friends. This wasn't just an affair. This was a business coup. I moved through the ballroom quickly, positioning myself near enough to hear but far enough to remain invisible behind my camera. So, when do we make it official? Dr. Harrison was saying. Marcus smiled. Jennifer and I are hoping for a spring merger. Once Rodriguez Medical Supply is fully under my operational control, we'll be able to integrate with Thompson Medical seamlessly. Jennifer's already drawn up the acquisition papers. And your wife? Another board member asked. Marcus's expression didn't even flicker. Maya's a sweetheart, but she's not built for the business side. Her father knew it too. He left me in charge of operations for a reason. She'll be well taken care of in the divorce, of course. I'm not a monster. The words hit me like physical blows. My father had left him in charge? That was a lie. My father had specifically structured his will to protect me, to ensure I'd always maintain control. These men didn't know that. They only knew what Marcus had told them. Jennifer touched Marcus's arm. The prenup is airtight. She gets her settlement, we get the company, everyone's happy. Well, everyone who matters. They all laughed. I kept my camera up, kept shooting, kept capturing every moment of my husband planning to rob me blind and marry his mistress with the money he'd stolen from my dead father's legacy. But I wasn't the sweet, naive woman they thought I was. I was Carlos Rodriguez's daughter. My father had survived poverty, discrimination, and a dozen failed businesses before Rodriguez Medical Supply finally succeeded. He'd taught me to be tough, to be smart, to protect what was mine. It was time to show them exactly what Carlos Rodriguez's daughter could do. I slipped away from the gala before Marcus could spot me. In my car, I changed out of the catering uniform and back into my regular clothes. My hands shook as I buttoned my blouse. Not from fear, from fury. I called Richard Chen. "I need to come to your office. Now." "It's almost midnight, Maya." "I don't care. I have evidence, all of it. We need to move before he realizes I know." Silence. "Then, I'll put coffee on." At Richard's office, I laid out everything. The PI reports, the financial records showing the embezzled funds, the photos from tonight's gala, the recording I'd made of Marcus's conversation with the hospital board, my phone having captured every word through its voice memo app. Richard listened to it all, his expression growing darker. Finally, he sat back. "This is bad, Maya. Really bad, but we have him. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. The prenup won't protect him from criminal charges." "What about the company?" "We file an emergency injunction first thing Monday morning. Freeze all accounts, freeze all transactions, suspend his access. Then we file criminal charges, then divorce. He'll know something's wrong when the accounts freeze." Richard smiled grimly. "Let him. By the time he figures out what's happening, you'll already have control back." "And Maya?" "Given the amount he's stolen and the fraud involved, we're talking serious prison time. 5 to 10 years, minimum." I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt exhausted. Do it. All of it. That weekend was the longest of my life. I stayed at my best friend Lauren's apartment, telling Marcus I'd extended my San Francisco trip to meet with additional clients. He sounded happy about it, probably because it gave him more time with Jennifer. I spent Saturday and Sunday with Richard, preparing documents. We filed the injunction first thing Monday morning. By 9 a.m., every Rodriguez medical supply account was frozen. Marcus's access to company systems was revoked. His company credit cards were canceled. His first call came at 9:17 a.m. "Maya, what the hell is going on? I can't access any of the accounts. The bank says there's an injunction. Did you do this?" I was sitting in Richard's conference room, surrounded by lawyers. I put the phone on speaker. "Yes, Marcus, I did." Silence. Then, carefully, "Why would you do that? Is something wrong?" "You tell me. Is there something wrong with stealing $280,000 from my company, or maybe with proposing to Jennifer Lawson while you're still married to me?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear his mind racing, trying to figure out how I knew. "I can explain." "Don't." "I was at the gala Friday night, Marcus. I was the photographer. I have pictures of you proposing to her. I have recordings of you planning to steal my father's company and sell it to Thompson Medical. I have evidence of every fraudulent transfer you've made in the last 3 months. Maya, listen to me." "No, you listen. By end of business today, you will be served with divorce papers, a lawsuit for corporate fraud and embezzlement, and criminal charges filed with the state's attorney. Richard Chen is my lawyer. Any communication goes through him." "You can't do this. I'm your husband." "You stopped being my husband the moment you stole from me. Actually, you probably stopped being my husband long before that. I was just too blind to see it." Richard leaned forward. "Mr. Rodriguez, this is Richard Chen. I'm advising you to retain legal counsel immediately. The evidence against you is substantial. If you try to contact my client again, we'll add harassment charges." I hung up. For a moment, I just sat there, trembling. Then Lauren, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, came over and wrapped me in a hug. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I felt hollow. "You did the right thing," she whispered. "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because you loved him. Because you thought your marriage meant something. Because he stole your father's legacy and tried to make you think you were too stupid to handle it. You're allowed to hurt, Maya. You're also allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel everything." She was right. So I let myself feel it. All of it. The next week was chaos. Marcus tried to call 7 times. I blocked his number. He showed up at Lauren's apartment. We called the police. He tried to access the office. Security turned him away. He sent Jennifer to try to negotiate. Richard sent her packing with threats of additional legal action. The evidence was overwhelming. The state's attorney took one look at our files and immediately filed charges. The hospital board, horrified to learn they'd been lied to, terminated all discussions with Thompson Medical and renewed Rodriguez Medical Supply's contract with a personal apology to me. Jennifer Lawson was fired from Thompson Medical for ethics violations. Apparently, using her position to facilitate her boyfriend's corporate fraud wasn't great for company optics. Marcus's lawyer tried to make a deal. Richard shut it down. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. The divorce was finalized in 8 weeks, thanks to the prenup and Marcus's flagrant violations. He got nothing. The $280,000 was returned to company accounts, plus damages. The company remained 100% mine. 3 months after that, Marcus was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for corporate fraud and embezzlement. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired and alone and wondering how I'd been so blind. That's when my doctor called with results from the routine physical I'd scheduled weeks ago. "Maya, you're pregnant." I almost dropped the phone. "That's impossible. We tried for 2 years. You're about 8 weeks along. Congratulations." 8 weeks. I did the math. That was right before I'd found out about Marcus's affair, right before everything fell apart. I was pregnant. With my cheating, stealing, now incarcerated ex-husband's child. For the first time since this nightmare began, I cried. Huge, gasping sobs in my car in the parking lot of my doctor's office. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. I was supposed to be excited. My husband was supposed to be holding my hand. We were supposed to be choosing nursery colors together. Instead, I was alone, pregnant, and the father of my child was in prison. But then something shifted. I put my hand on my still flat stomach and thought about my father. Carlos Rodriguez had raised me alone after my mother left when I was 3. He'd worked 3 jobs to put me through college. He'd built a company from nothing to give me a legacy. He'd been both mother and father to me. He'd shown me that family wasn't about perfect circumstances. It was about love, about fighting for what mattered, about never giving up. I could do this. I would do this. I called Lauren. "I need you. Always." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I'm pregnant, Lauren. I'm going to have a baby." Her scream of joy was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God, Maya, that's amazing. When did you find out? How far along are you? Are you okay? What do you need?" I laughed through my tears. "I just found out. 8 weeks. And yes, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. My baby and I are going to be okay." And we were. I threw myself into running Rodriguez Medical Supply with renewed purpose. The company had always been important to me, but now it was my child's inheritance, my father's legacy, passed down to his grandchild. I was going to make sure it thrived. I expanded our contracts with 3 more hospital systems. I hired a fantastic operations manager to handle the day-to-day, learning from my mistake of trusting the wrong person with too much power. I implemented new financial controls and oversight. I made Rodriguez Medical Supply stronger than it had ever been. And as my belly grew, so did my confidence. I wasn't just Maya Rodriguez, betrayed wife. I was Maya Rodriguez, CEO. Maya Rodriguez, expectant mother. Maya Rodriguez, survivor. 6 months after Marcus's sentencing, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Camila, after my grandmother who'd emigrated from Mexico with nothing but dreams and determination. My father would have loved her. Marcus sent a letter from prison, asking to be part of her life. I read it once, then filed it away. Camila would know who her father was. When she was old enough, I'd tell her the truth about what happened. I'd let her decide if she wanted a relationship with him. But until then, my job was to protect her, love her, and raise her to be strong. 8 months after Camila was born, I met Daniel Chen at a medical supply conference in Denver. He was Richard Chen's nephew, a biomedical engineer working on innovative hospital equipment. We started talking about industry trends and ended up talking for 6 hours straight. He was smart, kind, and funny. He made me laugh for the first time in over a year. And when I told him about my situation, about Marcus, about everything, he didn't run. He listened. He understood. He said, "We all have pasts. What matters is what we do with our futures." We dated slowly, carefully. I wasn't ready to rush into anything, but Daniel was patient. He met Camila and was wonderful with her. He supported my work and celebrated my successes. He never tried to replace Marcus or step into some role he hadn't earned. He just showed up. Consistently, honestly, kindly. 2 years later, Daniel proposed. Not with a stolen moment at a gala, not with a ring bought with embezzled money, but on a quiet Sunday morning in my kitchen, with Camila building blocks on the floor beside us, with pancakes on the stove and sunlight streaming through the windows. "Maya Rodriguez," he said, "I love you. I love your strength, your intelligence, your heart. I love the mother you are and the woman you're becoming. I love that you never gave up, even when everything fell apart. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you what real partnership looks like?" I said yes. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Camila was our flower girl, dropping petals with serious concentration. Lauren was my maid of honor. Richard Chen, who'd become like a father to me through everything, walked me down the aisle. It wasn't the wedding I'd imagined when I married Marcus. It was better, because it was real. It was built on truth, respect, and genuine love, not lies and stolen dreams. Marcus was released from prison after serving 5 years. He tried to contact me once, asking to meet Camila. Daniel and I discussed it carefully with our therapist and our lawyer. Eventually, we arranged supervised visits. Camila was 5 by then, old enough to understand at a basic level that this man was her biological father, but that Daniel was her dad, the one who'd been there for her whole life. The visits were awkward at first. Marcus had changed in prison. He was quieter, more thoughtful. He'd apparently spent years in therapy dealing with his issues. He apologized to me multiple times, though I never quite knew what to do with those apologies. Sorry doesn't give you back the years of pain. Sorry doesn't erase betrayal. But I accepted them anyway. Not for him. For Camila. For myself. For the closure. Now, 5 years after that night at the gala, I sit in my office at Rodriguez Medical Supply and look at the photos on my desk. Camila at her 7th birthday party. Daniel and me on our anniversary. My father's old photo from the company's founding. I think about that woman with the camera at the gala, desperately trying to hold herself together while her world collapsed. I want to go back and tell her that she's going to be okay. More than okay. That the betrayal that feels like the end is actually a beginning. That she's stronger than she knows. I think about all the comments I've read online from women going through similar situations, the ones who say, "I could never do what you did. I would have just left." And I understand that impulse. God, do I understand it. There were so many moments when walking away would have been easier, but I didn't do this for revenge. I did it for justice. I did it because my father had built something meaningful, and I wasn't going to let Marcus destroy it. I did it because $280,000 could fund operations, could hire employees, could save lives through the medical equipment we supplied. I did it because sometimes standing up and fighting back is the only way forward. I did it because I'm Carlos Rodriguez's daughter, and we don't give up. The camera I used that night sits in my closet now. Sometimes I take it out and remember, not with pain anymore, just with a sort of distant acknowledgement of who I was and how far I've come. That night at the gala taught me something valuable. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best transformations. Sometimes you have to disguise yourself to see the truth. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what really matters. And what really matters is this: I survived, I thrived, I protected my father's legacy and built a future for my daughter. I found real love after fake promises. I turned pain into power. Marcus tried to take everything from me. Instead, he gave me the push I needed to become who I was always meant to be. So to anyone reading this who's standing at their own gala, metaphorically speaking, with a camera in their hands and betrayal in front of their eyes, document everything, trust your instincts, fight for what's yours, and know that on the other side of this nightmare is a version of yourself you haven't met yet. A stronger version, a wiser version, a version that knows her worth and refuses to settle for anything less. That night, I thought I was just gathering evidence. But really, I was gathering the pieces of myself that I'd lost somewhere along the way. The pieces that knew I deserved better. The pieces that were brave enough to demand it. I'm Maya Rodriguez, and this is how I took back my life.